Whew, this one's going to turn into a rant. It already has. No more notes. What's up, sons? It's Blind Riding with Son of a Tech once again, and today we're going to ask and answer the simple question, WTF is Pirate Chain, with a whole bunch of tangents revolving around the principles of cryptocurrency and the path forward that we are going with it. But before we get into it, here is a word from our sponsor. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people alike on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and even cryptocurrency. As a content creator and cryptocurrency enthusiast, Skillshare offers me the tools to sharpen my videography skills with classes like Video on a Budget, Prepare for Your Shoot Without Breaking the Bank, and for cryptocurrency, Accounting 101, Accounting Rules for Crypto and Bitcoin. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads and they are always launching new premium classes, so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. And it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of premium membership, so you can explore your creativity. Welcome back. So before we can really answer what Pirate Chain is fully, we kind of have to talk a little bit about the principles of crypto. The principles of crypto being peer-to-peer and obviously trustless is part of that. Trustless, which is confusing to a lot of people, basically just means no banks. Think of it that way. You can exchange from you to me without the interference of a third party, period. End of story. Now, in a lot of cases, people say like keeping cash on hand, cash is powerful back in the day. Of course, there's the gold argument. Think of it along those lines, except a digital currency version of that. And that is in the Bitcoin white paper. These are things that a lot of people found, very profound and very important to, of course, the blockchain. And to facilitate that, then we get into decentralization, which means validation of the transactions and so on has to be decentralized, so not one entity is controlling those transactions. And so that's why we saw initially, the proof of work idea. And because Nakamoto thought that essentially, CPUs were in great supply and we could always validate transactions with that because the common man has them. That was kind of the path forward he took when implementing the proof of work. However, that's changed due to ASICs and the control of the market Bitmain has over it. Now, there are more manufacturers coming online. That's going to be better. The further and further you can decentralize the networks, in theory, the better for everybody. Now, there are other platforms, introducing proof of stake and so on, and we can cover those later. But the real important thing is to understand that the idea, or the original idea, was to allow people to exchange currency between each other without the interference of a third party. Now, whether or not you agree with that, okay. But if you're into cryptocurrency, technically, that was the whole deal from the get-go. That's the foundation, okay? If you want to argue over that, I'll just reference you to the Bitcoin white paper over and over again, and then we could go into the Cypherpunk manifesto beyond that, which talks about privacy and how we've given that up. Now, we've given up privacy in a lot of ways across the board with, the invention of the internet coming along and the ability to basically have more convenient goods and services in exchange for our privacy at the end of the day. The reason this is done primarily is because Google has facilitated a majority of this, and their entire goal is to sell your data. That is basically what you've traded using these internet websites for free and using these search engines and so on. You're trading essentially your privacy and your data for a service. That's the way it works. Now, cypherpunks back in the 90s were very concerned with this and were working on different cryptographic algorithms to basically secure anything from communication over the internet to eventually, of course, the ability to secure the networks for blockchain, right? So not just networks, sorry, to secure the blockchain. And that didn't really work out with Bitcoin because it is traceable, right? So you can eventually trace everything back to a wallet, which you can then attach to a person because they have been integrated with services like Coinbase, etc. I bring this up because when we were talking about Pirate Chain, what we were talking about is a privacy coin. So the most popular privacy coin that you may be aware of would be Monero. Now, this creates an issue because Monero and privacy coins in general will not, by nature, be implemented into services such as Coinbase, Crypto.com. You could just list them all, right? So any service that is directly reporting to an entity or a government of any sort would not allow any sort of privacy to be maintained. Therefore, what ends up happening is if you are basically participating in these privacy networks, it's a lot more difficult for you to exchange those privacy blockchain coins for real coins or for fiat, I should say, real money or for goods and services. It just makes it more difficult to do that. Now, of course, you can use decentralized exchanges and maybe some outside exchanges like TradeOgre or something along those lines that don't require user registration. Those are still centralized. There's a lot of different points or separations, lines of separations between different services, and then convert it to something that is more easily tradable for goods and services, such as Bitcoin or Ethereum, and that is a possibility. So Pirate Coin's nothing new. What it is, though, is that it is a privacy coin that is built on top of Komodo. Now, Komodo is a really special case once again, too, because when we talk about Komodo, we have to talk about scalability and their approach towards scalability. And I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible. As opposed to a single coin trying to be scalable, like take Ethereum or Polkadot, where they use parachains or parathreads or quorums, or basically just multiple chains, right? Komodo's approach is to basically use a platform that allows multiple chains on it. So Pirate Chain itself isn't necessarily what I would call scalable, but by utilizing Komodo and its platforms, it can become much more scalable. This is also a manner in which they can prevent a 51% attack. And one of the big positives for developing a chain on top of Komodo is that to be 51% attacked, they would also have to 51% attack the Komodo chain and other like established chain, meaning it becomes more difficult for a 51% attack to take place, which is why people would build on top of that. Now, for the privacy features in particular for Pirate Chain, it is Z snarks, so nothing really new here. You can see Zcash and so on. As far as their consensus mechanism, once again, nothing special here. It's going to be Equihash, and basically you are thinking of Zcash, etc., which is why the Z9 Mini is what we basically used and found to be profitable on mining it, because it uses the same algorithm. And that's kind of really where we're at as far as all that goes. Now, the name obviously kind of leans you towards that whole Pirate Bay, internet pirate kind of life or whatever, right? So that could be a little bit more difficult for them in the future if we're talking about acceptance outside of what I would call not necessarily dark web, but maybe like alternate web, right? And that's really going to be up to you on how you think the public will perceive that as far as from an investment standpoint and so on. The point of it, though, at least in my opinion, is not to essentially increase the value of the coin, but to be able to trade in private between two parties without the interference of another party. Here's where we get into more issues, though. If I hop into the Discord, it is constant talk about price of the coin. And my problem with that is here. basically right here on the bat, right off the bat, we talk about the principles of crypto, what it's supposed to facilitate, and what it's supposed to be. And then we say, okay, well, pirate.chain is as close to that as you could be as far as being trustless, decentralized, whatever. But the primary focus of everybody that's in the community is the price. And that's why I said this was going to turn into a rant, because anytime we are looking at trying to adhere closer and closer to the principles of crypto, my kind of thought on that is the more likely you are not going to have as big price movements and targets, because it's harder for people to essentially invest in it and then liquidate it. Take the recent example of Elon Musk liquidating some Bitcoin to prove that they could hold that as their cash balance. He had to do that for the investors. You would not be able to do that as easily with something like Monero or Pirate.chain. Therefore, its institutional investments would not be viable, and then retailers would follow suit because their entire focus is not on the revolution of our current financial system or institutions, but is focused on their own personal profit and gain. And that's why Pirate Chain was a really fun WTF is. Let's talk about some of the more details. If you guys are interested in mining it, it is a 32 block reward. The next halving will be in 2021, so you have a little bit of time. They have a countdown for that. It's tradable on Trade Ogre if you would like to go over there, and it does have its own wallet. You can also use Atomic Dex because it is built onto Komodo. So all the features are there. Is there anything really special about it? If I'm being honest, no, it's not anything more special than any other coin. The problem with a lot of these coins is that it's like, we talked about WSB coin. It's been proven it's easy to spin up a chain like WSB coin on Komodo platform. So it isn't a difficult project to do. You can make the modifications you need to hit the key targets for advertising that you want, right? So you can implement the Z-Snarks pretty easily to make sure that you hit your privacy. You can implement the proof of work algorithms that you want to basically be able to, appeal to a certain market, different miners, maybe older Zcash miners or whoever that is. In this case, I'm just saying probably older Zcash miners that aren't profitable on Zcash anymore, along those lines, right? So there's nothing really super special about Pirate.chain itself other than its appeal and allure as far as the whole pirate's life, ARG, in my opinion, as far as I can see. Now, there isn't any information on governance that I was able to obtain. The Discord is currently just talking about price and trying to make money off of it, essentially. And the typical conversations you see in Discords for coins, and has completely ignored any technical questions that I have sent. So the white paper will be linked down below. You can check it out. If I missed something as far as governance, let me know. And then as far as consensus mechanism, we covered that. We covered scalability based on Komodo and scaling via multiple coins and on separate chains as opposed to, multiple chains within a single coin, and so on. So you will see, of course, because of Atomic Dex and everything built on top of that, probably a pretty easy transition for decentralized swapping and so on. I think Komodo is making waves. Really what a lot of these WTF are currently turning into is the viability of the Komodo platform to build more coins. And yes, a lot of those will be complete, but a lot of them will have potential as well. And having a platform that allows people to build easier is really, I think, the story at the end of the day, and super interesting. But I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Once again, I apologize for the rant, but I feel like these are things that we need to talk about. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions on them as well. And we've already pretty much gone over the defense for centralization multiple times, but I'll repeat that once again. I'm going to compare that to cars in the early days being pulled by horses and so on because there weren't enough gas stations. There weren't gas stations on every corner. So unfortunately, because we can't trade current cryptocurrencies very easily for goods and services, we are basically having to use other different, less principled forms of services to get cryptocurrency moved in and out. I'll see you next Tuesday. If you enjoyed this content, you can check out more crypto content on this playlist up here. Or, of course, go ahead and subscribe for more in the future. Adios.